Welcome back to the Brother Show. I'm your host, K Mo. Tonight we are talking about fathers, father figures, and families. We'll see you in 1 second. All right, welcome back to the Brother Show. I'm your host, K Mo. I'm your life relationship coach and podcaster. Tonight we have a special guest. We're talking about father figures and families. Do men need other men to provide a strong community? And so we were a couple of days ago. We were on IG Live with a good friend of mine who is a father, but also a new father. But I wanted to talk to one of my good and dear friends. We met I think about 20 years ago now. And so he just is a new father. And so he also does a lot more than just being a father. But I wanted to bring on a dear friend, classmate, schoolmate, and also just a good brother of mine, Mr. Mateen Stewart.
What's up? What's
What's
up?
going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I know that I got a lot of Cali brothers now. I had another guy, the guy I had on Monday is from California as well. So thanks so much. I know we're on different time zones, but you made some time for me, and I know you're a busy man. But Mateen, tell the viewers who you are, brother.
My name is Mateen Stewart. I am a comedian based in Los Angeles, California. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I went to FAMU. That's where I met Corey. Back when we were freshmen, you were a theater major. You used to be a theater major, then you changed. And then we later became frat brothers. They knew frat brothers at FAMU.
Yeah. So and I think even with that, brother, like that, I was in the production side of things and you're in the acting side of things. And it does not surprise me you went into the field you did because you were a star then. And
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, you were a star then, man, and did so many great things. I was like, it never shocks me when I see you on TV, when I see you on social media doing your thing. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
But tonight, we are going to talk about what are your thoughts of being a new father. That is a great thing, man. Fatherhood can be, I'm not a father yet, but doing this work and especially specializing men and talking about the behavior of men and also the mindset of men and what women need to think about when they're dealing with the man. I think it will help them a lot. What does that look like with you being a new father, and talk a little bit about that?
Well, being a new father is definitely something that no one can prepare you for. It's just like you can't even explain it. And my situation is a little bit different than most new fathers because I lost my mom in 2020, and so here I am. I lost the most important person in my life, and then gained the most important person in my life, all within like a 12, almost exactly 12 months. So we lost my mom in September 2020. My daughter was born in September of 2021. So now it's just like everything I do is for the betterment of this person. And I've never had that feeling with anyone else because my whole life is now dedicated to making sure that she is okay. I automatically feel like I need whatever I need to do to protect this person,
Right.
and to make sure that I'm around to be able to protect this person,
Right.
and be there for my family. That goes up because the
Right.
stakes get higher. So you can't live your life like you used to because
Right.
you have a person at home that is there waiting for you take care of it. She's so helpless right now.
Right.
And I look at my daughter, and I can't even imagine how anyone could look at their child and walk away.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
even as tough as it is,
right.
You have those moments where you're like, why isn't she sleeping, or why is she crying? But it's just such a special thing that a lot of times people take for granted, because it can just come from a lustful situation.
Right.
And I've been blessed enough to not have that be my case. Like I brought my daughter into a loving household,
Right.
and I'm prepared to take care of her. And I'm a little older as a father, so I'm a little more mature
Right.
now in life than I would if this happened 10 years ago. I would have been like, what the hell is going on? Like, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. But now I'm a little more mature. I'm more established, like financially in my situation, that I don't have to really like worry about anything. So yeah, that's what it's just been, man. It's been like the best thing that's probably ever happened to me. And to be able to say, like, I see a stranger, and like I love this stranger more than I love anything else, instantly. Like instantly. From the moment she took her first breath.
Right.
And then even, during the pregnancy and everything, and making sure that the baby's okay, and that my partner's okay, that she's okay. And it was just a roller coaster of emotions. And I think definitely being a new father has definitely helped with me grieving my mother, because it's just been such a circle of life thing, to do that. And then we named my daughter after my mother, so that was just like another thing that added to that as well, to make it a little special.
Right. So my question to you, it's tough. Like, I know as men, we all, and I don't know if I'm just going to speak as men. I'm going to speak for all men. We always want that boy. We always want that son to play catch with or throw the ball with, but just kind of be our mini me. Tell me the difference in having a daughter.
See, for me, like, I don't know. I think I was like the opposite.
Okay.
Because like when we didn't find out what we were having.
Okay. Oh, really?
So we waited because
okay.
I wanted to be surprised, because it made it so much more special when she was born. It was like, what is she? What is it?
Right.
What is it? But I deep down kind of knew it was going to be a girl, just because I just had a feeling, like my mom and everything. And I know my mom always, like, I have one sister.
Okay.
And my mom was like, she had two boys, and then she had my yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. She had two boys, and then she had my sister. And it's all good, like you want a son and then you want a junior. But for me, I kind of wanted to be the girl dad. Like, I bought into the whole concept of being a girl dad, like having a girl, like being that kind of relationship to a girl. So I might be in a minority. And yeah, but I couldn't, like, for me, I'm like, I wanted a girl. Like I
okay.
Really did.
All right.
Want
okay.
a girl. So yeah.
So,
and you can still play. I can still play catch. She's gonna be tall. It's gonna be easier for her to get a scholarship.
Right? Yeah.
It's gonna be easier for her to get a scholarship. In sports. So,
what comes in mind when you think of, when you hear the word father?
When I hear the word father, I think of protector, provider, Papa Bear, big piece of chicken, like Chris Rock said. You get the big piece of chicken. But it was always different, because in my house, when I grew up, there weren't really any like specific gender norms. There wasn't any traditional gender norms. So like my mom always made more money than my dad. My mom didn't cook. She didn't clean. She wasn't domestic. And so I didn't have that like role. These were needs to be. This is the things that everything has to do. So for me, it's a little different. But I feel like protector and providing for your family. But
Mm-hmm.
essentially, like we're a cohesive unit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we're both have that thing where we're we give and we take, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it's a balance. It's
Right.
all about
Right.
balance. And like we're doing this together with two
Mm-hmm.
people, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't even imagine
Imagine.
having to do it like as one. Like it.
Yeah.
Kudos to any person that's a single parent, and
Right.
majority of single parents are women, unfortunately, because men could leave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think it is easier for men to leave because we don't really have that attachment, because we do have an attachment where that like we didn't have a physical being growing inside of our
Right.
bodies,
Right.
and it
Right.
didn't come out of us. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll never know
Mm-hmm.
what that feels like. So I was like I'll never, there's moments where I'm like, you know what, I get it. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
never. So if you want to go for it. Uh, yeah. So I think like provider, protector is definitely uh, when I hear the word father,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean there was just certain things that, well, still in my household, then we didn't have any gender norms that like if certain things needed to be taken care of, like my dad went to go do it. Like
Right.
if I had to go talk to uh like if I got in trouble at school, like my dad
Mm-hmm.
went to go talk to the
Right.
principal. If
Mm-hmm.
when we had these kind of things, my dad went to go do that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
in any situations there are different roles, and
Right.
as things progress with societal roles and
Mm-hmm.
everything, and I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone's different.
Right.
Sometimes
Right.
that works for you, where like the man's
Mm-hmm.
making more money and
Mm-hmm.
the wife stays at home and does whatever. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
if that could work for you. Like if I could stay home and not do nothing and just raise a kid, and we could do that where it was like
Yeah.
comfortable, I wouldn't
Yeah.
be like, no, no, no. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll take
Right.
care of what I need to take care of.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say for me, and I don't even gonna answer this question the other day. I did grow up in a house uh with women. However, I had a lot of uncles
Mm-hmm.
and great uncles who came from the 1930s and 40s. And so they're in the South. So I definitely there were definitely roles.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with fathers, the one word that really stands out to me is responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, no matter what level of structure you have in your household, there is a responsibility as a father.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's strength in the word father, a
Mm-hmm.
different level of strength, because at the end of the day, I know your daughter is going to feel protected by your wife. However, I feel like she'll feel security from her father.
Yeah, it's definitely
You
it's
know,
definitely a different energy. Like
yeah,
no matter what gender roles we have, I still take out the trash.
exactly. Oh,
Like
really? Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Like
Now we get into
it's
it.
just I still take out the trash. If
Yeah,
I'm the spider killer
yeah,
in the
yeah.
house. Um,
Right, right, right. From
yeah,
distance, but
yeah.
still, I'll throw something at it.
If there's noises, I go
Yeah.
check the noise.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah,
yeah. Of
yeah, yeah,
course.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you still get that.
Yeah. We still got that, and like, and we the same height, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that's
She can't play that one, huh?
no.
um, but yeah, man. I think responsibility, and also I would say even with father, you having a daughter. I don't care what anybody says. I really believe who we end up with. It does have it has a it makes us think about where we came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I have never met your wife, but whoever you your parents are, I believe you know your children definitely follow behind who they are.
Yes.
So you are the role model in her life to see what a man at some point will be in her life. So that's what I think about the word
Yeah,
father.
and I mean, and then you also have to take in consideration um, like whoever your partner is, and like
Mm-hmm.
their where their history is, and what their history
Mm-hmm.
comes
Mm-hmm.
from how they were raised. So like, I want to be the kind of father that Erica's father was for her.
Mm.
So does that make sense to
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
because he had such an impact on her life, so
Mm-hmm.
I want to be at least that, because I never
Mm-hmm.
met her father, but I
Mm.
see just the residuals of it, and like
Of
how she
of
was
who she
raised, and
is.
yeah. So I would love to be that for because
Good order.
I have that right there, right there, that see that from the history.
Yeah.
So because me and my dad had a different kind of relationship. We don't have like the father daughter relationship, and even
Mm.
my dad and my sister, like their relationship is not a relationship that I would want to
Mm.
have, because it's very tumultuous. And my dad was around, but
Yeah.
he had his own issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I see those, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to put my family into that situation,
Absolutely.
because if you don't learn from that,
Mm-hmm.
then you just create this
Cycle.
cycle. Yeah, you create
Yep.
this cycle
Mm-hmm.
of toxicity.
Yeah.
You just toxicity builds more toxicity.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you as much as you know what to do, you know
Mm-hmm.
what not to do.
Absolutely.
And so that, and I'm learning
Yeah.
as I go. And like I said, being an older dad, being an older first time father, I feel like I'm definitely a lot more mature than I would be if this happened when I was 22.
Right. Right.
So
We're all getting mature now.
yeah, I know, man. Tell
uh,
me about it.
but we're talking about those experiences. I'm talking too with you with the same thing, and I'm 100% with you, bro. Like every time I meet someone, like I look at it's almost a level of responsibility, even in your own relationship, that you want
Mm-hmm.
to create so that you can change that cycle, so that when you bring this human being in this world, you want to make sure that they follow behind the good things you learned from your parents. Because
Mm-hmm.
one thing I always will say to anybody, we are a product of our environment. However, we can stop cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just like our parents have always taught us, I want you to, I don't know I have never met anybody that doesn't say their parents have said to them at one point in time, I want you to be better than me.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you take the information that it's good that you learn from them, and you make it your own, but also make it better. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's what what we try to do. But going into the next question, like, where do you think the state of fatherhood is now in families?
I mean, for me, just with my peers who are fathers, um, like I don't know a lot of single mothers. And I know, but most couples that I know have good relationships that they're building on. But I mean, there is a pandemic of mothers that are raising uh, babies by themselves, but also don't like the narrative that it's only black and brown people, and that's the narrative that I feel like needs to stop. There needs to not be the narrative like black men don't take care of their children,
Mm, mm,
because historically that's what is
right.
projected to society. When if you look at the numbers and you look at teen pregnancies
Mhm.
in communities where there's minorities, the teen pregnancies in minority communities are down. But you never
Mm,
hear that. You only hear about black and brown people, teenagers
mhm.
getting pregnant. Like, no, that's not the thing. And I feel like, as
And
far as
they might have them in those other areas. However, they do something about it.
hmm and I feel like there needs to the narrative that black men don't take care of their children needs to be stopped, because I
Hmm.
feel like when we hear about a bad father, we always
Hmm.
hear about a black father, or we
Right.
always hear about dads going to get cigarettes and not coming back,
Right. Pookies and
or
Ray Rays.
yeah, the Pookies and the Ray Rays. Uh, but a lot of black fathers are out of their children's lives, mostly because they're in the incarcerated because of the
Mm.
justice system, and
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
so many different uh, reasons why that is that we don't really delve into, because it's this stereotype that just gets exploited.
Hmm.
So I feel like the state of fatherhood has changed,
Hmm.
where it's like a man doesn't need to be um, like as financially secure as he had to be, 50 years ago. The
Hmm.
responsibility of a man isn't the same as it was 50 years ago.
Hmm.
So we have definitely transitioned, because women are doing more things. Women
Hmm.
are making more money. Women
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
becoming independent, where they don't need to like depend on a man to be financially secure. So I feel like that in itself has changed a little bit as far as like the role of a father. But
Mhm.
like I said, there's still things that fathers do,
Right.
like take out the trash and kill
Yeah.
spiders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
equality set
Yes.
aside,
Right.
feminism.
Right.
I kill the spiders in this house. I
Yes.
take out the trash in this house.
Yes.
If there's a noise, I hear. I do
Yes.
that.
You're the
So
first to
yeah,
first to
yeah,
the
yeah,
rescue. Front
yeah, yeah,
line. You're the
yeah.
front line team.
You're the front. You're the front line. I'm jumping in front of the bus first,
Absolutely.
no matter
Yeah.
what. Like
Mhm.
if and I feel like instinctually, that's like I was
Mhm.
telling Erica, like instinctually, if something happens right now, if there's a bus coming towards my house, and who's gonna jump? I'm jumping in front of the bus.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I feel like that is, and it might be someone might say, oh, that's like chauvinistic or whatever, but
Mm.
to me, I think that is what comes with like
Being in
fatherhood
fatherhood. Yeah.
in protecting,
Yes.
because there's certain things that we try to get around when it comes to like, oh, this and that as far as roles, but like instinctually, ancestrally,
And it's okay.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay. I mean,
yeah.
I always use the word I forgot there was a comedian, I forgot his name, but he talked about the Titanic. And they
Mm-hmm.
always say, when the Titanic went down, who did they call for first? And the men were playing, had the cigars and were
Mm-hmm.
playing the saxophone and everything, and was going down with the ship. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just what, like you said, that's what we had to do. And I don't think some of those things will never change. However, equality is just equality, and I think we have to be a tad bit more careful with the younger generation, because you and I are old enough to remember, yeah, I'm gonna jump in front of this bullet. But some of
Mm-hmm.
the younger guys, I don't know if they will feel the same way as we feel with they've heard equality for so long.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when people use that word equality,
Hmm.
they use it in the wrong context, because I feel like when most people bring up equality, I feel like they want equity. They want equity. They want to be able to have the same opportunities that other people have, because nothing can truly be equal. There's certain things that will never be equal.
Right.
You want equity. That's
Yeah.
what you want.
We're talking about fathers tonight, but hell, I mean, mothers.
Yeah.
We could never, like you just mentioned, we could never go through and understand the connection they have with a child, because
Hmm.
motherhood in itself, if we were talking about motherhood, that's not equal.
No.
So,
No. I like that experience. I'll never be able to get that, and I'll
mhm,
never be able to know what that feels like ever. No,
right,
no matter what I do,
right.
there's nothing I can do to know that bond. That
And we don't try to know.
no.
No, it's okay. You got it. You
Yeah.
good. You got it. You got that.
Yeah.
I understand.
I'm glad I
Um,
didn't have to do it. I tell you, watching that and being in that room, I'm like, I'm glad I do not have to do that, man.
yeah, 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 yeah. What so we talked about the state of fatherhood. Now, and for me, I think it's gotten to the place where you're right, man. I'm actually, before the call tonight, I was thinking, way negative about it, and what I've heard, what I see, being in an urban space, most of my adulthood, I've seen a lot of the negative,
Mm-hmm.
see it on a daily basis. And so you see the absent father. Um, and that's where we have to step up. Or even when we were in college, we did a lot of community service,
Mm-hmm.
with being mentors, to some boys who had fatherless homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why we did what we did, and we kind of still do those things to try to model those things for other young men, who may, in whatever situation. But like you said, it goes unnoticed how many men, and we're just talking about fathers, we're not talking about a husband.
Mm-hmm.
um um I know a lot of people who are fathers, a lot of men who are fathers, but they may not be in those situations still.
Mm-hmm.
But they play a huge role in making sure that their children know who they are. And it goes back to what you said. Their situations growing up, they said, it can't be me. That can't
Mm-hmm.
be me. I mentioned on the broadcast on IG Live, we had so many different things that we faced, where a lot of our grandfathers and fathers came from the war, and were strung out on drugs, and they put that drug in our communities so
Mm-hmm.
that we could use it as a addiction, but also for we in a lot of our families use it as a coping mechanism. Became alcoholics, the winos. When you if you've ever listened to some of those guys, I remember as a child, some of them were war heroes or guys who had been over seas, and they couldn't come back
Mm-hmm.
mentally. They couldn't come back mentally. So thank God they paved the way for us so we can be educated and understand what this looks like now. What for you, if any, did you see a situation where what was the cause of this negative um, um, understanding or societal norm of fathers not being in the home or the family?
Well, I think you touched on it a little bit when you were talking about like going to war and coming back on drugs, and I come from a fairly big family, but I look at my grandfather who was like doing all kinds of things and had multiple families and different baby mothers, but he always provided for his 8 children when he needed to. But I mean, I do have relatives and who have different uh, uh, baby mothers running all around the place, and it just becomes habitual. It becomes a thing where like, oh, this is what it is. I can go to this place and I can go to this place, and I think it's easy for men to do that because we literally can impregnate so many people,
Right.
like
Yeah, at the
literally
same
at the
time.
same time.
Yeah.
And like women get pregnant, they just pregnant.
Yeah, yeah.
They stuck. So
Right.
it is so easy for us to leave because we don't have to be there. And yeah, and I think a lot of times it's a lot of insecurities that men have, and there's a lot of like mental things that we aren't even able to express our feelings, and we're shamed if we want to seek therapy or get help. I mean, that's not only just men but also in our community.
Right.
Like, oh, like my grandma would say, oh, you don't need therapy, go to church.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
And
we
it's
use.
yeah and it is years and years of trauma, just trauma bonding that we have, that we carry on. And what happens is like when a man enters a woman, like you're becoming part of that person, especially if you're not
Mhm.
using any protection. You're becoming, so all that trauma that's in you is just
Going into the other.
going
Yeah.
inside this person,
Mm.
and then you create this child, and it's just built in, this trauma just sits,
Yeah.
and that child has no idea
Mm-mm.
what it's coming into and what it's dealing with because it can't control it. And then it's like you said, it's just this vicious cycle
Mhm.
that people feel like is the norm.
Right.
So if you grow up with like, oh yeah, I got 4 different baby mamas, like if that's the norm to you, that's just your normal life.
Right.
So it's not an oddity. It's not anything
Mhm.
that's different from your way of life. It becomes habitual. It becomes a
Mhm.
habitual thing, and that's why you have years and years of this trauma because you see it, then you pass it on to your child, then your child passes on to their child, and so on. And it's just until someone stops it and be like, yo, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And a lot of times I hear specifically a lot of white people be like, oh, well, why don't you pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Like I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. And I tell those white people, it's hard to pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you don't have any feet.
Mm. Mm.
So when you start off like that, you don't have any feet to
Mhm.
put the boots on to be able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
So we start in a hole. We
Mhm.
start in this hole, and as Black people, if you're not put in a situation, and I was fortunate enough to be put in a situation where my mom decided that she wasn't going to be that person. So she's the only one out of her 7 sisters that didn't
Mhm.
get
Mhm.
get pregnant as a teenager, that doesn't have multiple baby fathers, was never divorced. She married my dad when she was 25, and they were married for 40 years, and they had like their ups and downs. But I'm glad that my mother was able to pull herself out of that, and then she passed all of these things on to me. So I was like,
Mhm.
I know that whatever woman I ended up with, needs to have some of these same attributes and these things
Right.
that's like, all right, this is what I need. These are certain things that
Mhm.
I need. So, like you said, you have to be able to break that cycle.
Yeah. And so, yeah, right here it says we have basically what you said, we have to learn how to break the cycle. And that comes with time, work, um, in all of us, but you have to recognize it. And I always say you have to look at the why. Um, Even earlier, not enough respect paid to roles of fathers these days. Just the word itself, father. Um, I don't think it's enough respect around it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think, and it's the thing where anybody can be a child's daddy, but there's not everyone can't be a father,
Mhm.
and and it's always like, well, oh, that's my baby daddy. You
Mm,
rarely hear my baby's father,
mm.
and that's I feel like that's on purpose,
Yeah. Mhm.
and um, I wouldn't want my daughter to call me father because this is not the 1800s,
Yeah.
but
Dad.
yeah,
Right.
but I feel like the word father is, because I feel like a father is the one that, like, you're the in like
You're in
because
the
you
person's
could,
life.
yeah, you're in that person's life. You're part of their journey, their life journey. A father is a part of your life journey, where anybody could be a daddy. You know what I mean? Just anybody could be a
From these
daddy.
these days.
You know.
You hear me?
Would you say?
How do you feel? How do you feel females or single mothers see fathers in families these days?
I mean, I can't speak. For me, it's hard for me to speak about what a single mother feels and what she
Okay.
thinks, because I'm not a single mother, and I can't even imagine that. But um, I did make a point when this is before we
Hmm.
found out we were even pregnant. I made a point to find some single mothers that I can help out with and provide diapers for.
Mm.
So there's three mothers that I provide diapers for. I told them that for the first year of their baby's life, I would provide the diapers for them. And that gesture, which is not even that grandiose to me, it's just like,
Hmm.
I'm just going to do this because I can help you out.
Hmm.
And but that gesture for most of them, like, oh my God, you don't realize how important this is to me, because the child's father doesn't even do anything. And for you who don't even really know me, you to be able to provide this is we're so thankful for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then it was like, oh yeah, I just guaranteed these women I was going to buy diapers for them. And then like a month later, we found out that we were pregnant. And I was like, well, I'm gonna need to now. I gotta spend money on diapers. Uh, but yeah, I just think like it's hard. It's so hard for a single mother, man, because not even just raising a child, but if because it does take a village. Like
Mm.
when people say that, it really does take a village, and that's one thing that like I really miss right now, not having my mom around, because I know how much she would be around to help with
Mhm.
this situation here. And now that she's not, it's like my village is one short.
Mhm.
My team is one short, but we have Erica's mom who is really helpful and helping us out. And we're both in the entertainment field, and we had to take some time off, but now we got to get back out there because we got a mortgage to pay.
Mhm.
We gotta buy diapers.
Right.
I
Right.
gotta buy diapers for three other people.
Right.
Yeah. So like I think that I can't even imagine being a single mother. Like being a single mother, raising a child, and then having to try to find a partner,
Mhm.
and it's hard. It's hard, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, and as you get a certain age, and I tell people this a lot of times when I help some of my friends, and they're like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "Well, dude, you're 40,
Mhm.
and if you're dating within your range, the chances that the person that you're going to be dating, they're probably on they've probably divorced, and
Mhm.
they're probably going to have a kid. And
Mhm.
so for you to not expect for those people not to have kids just because you don't, like, the chances
Mhm.
are they're going to be working on their
Mhm.
trying to get their second marriage,
Mhm.
and they're going to have a kid. So you have to be able to decide, like, hey, am I able to put myself in a situation with this person?
Mhm.
And if you're not, don't get into a situation
Right.
with a single mother,
Mhm.
because that child is not going anywhere. And that
No.
child is always going to be the number one priority. So you
Number
can't
one.
you can't get into the situation. And then not only do you have to deal with the child, you have to deal with that child's parent. If that child's
Yeah.
parent is in that child's life, That's something you
father.
have. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
be able to understand, and it's not always going to be amicable. It's not always going to be amicable because a lot of times when you have those situations, no matter if you black, white, green, purple, it's not going to be coming from a good place.
Mm-hmm,
There's
mm-hmm.
going to be some issues. They're going to, a lot of families end in divorce, and it just gets ugly because these parents, they pit each other against each other using a child, and it becomes ugly. Um, but yeah, man, I kudos to any single parent out there. Double kudos as a single mother, because there's more single mothers in this world than there are any other people
Mm-hmm.
raising kids by themselves, and and I think women do have a certain level
Mm-hmm.
of they have the little,
Tolerance.
the tolerance,
Tolerance. I
and
would say
able to
tolerance.
a
Yeah.
lot of to do a lot more and
Mm-hmm.
in certain situations and deal with a lot more things that, like, I don't think we're capable
Right.
of dealing with.
Yeah. And then one of the brothers mentioned earlier about the cycle that we keep talking about. We have to be more intentional as fathers. And also, I believe even when women are choosing a partner, they have to
Hmm.
look at that person as a father. And this is not
Hmm.
me again bashing women, but choosing the right partner. Because I'm bringing that up because you talked about the being toxic and each person being toxic. And if you're not doing that work, and you haven't done the work just yet, then going into it's not going to get too much better when you bring a child because your energy then goes into the child. So
Yes,
sometimes you
it
forget
does.
about what you need to do, which that toxicity is on the side, and then you have to use your other energy as we get older to make sure that you're focusing on the child. And so some of those, I think, marriages, and again, I'm not trying to get off the topic, those marriages fall because of that. And that kind of goes into our next question, which is, why do you feel fathers are needed even more in today when families are being raised by single family homes so much? Like, I hear what you're saying, and even for me, being very strategic of how I move. I think that you probably did the same thing, being that you waited at a later age. Um, Talk a little bit more about your being intentional, like even in the maybe not dating space, but you knew that this person was the person that you wanted to become a
Yeah,
husband to, but also you wanted to be a father.
yeah. I mean, and dude, we weren't really like we had a conversation about it because at a certain point you're like, when is this going to happen? Because you have an infinite amount of time here on this planet, and biologically, there's a lot of things that you can't control. So it got to a point where it's like, when is this going to happen? And so we were like, all right, well, let's talk about it in January. We were talking about how we were going to see if we wanted to pursue to have a child, and in January we found out we were pregnant. So so yeah, I mean, we took some steps not to get pregnant, and somebody else had other plans for us. So when I was like, when we found that out, it was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was a thing where, like, as you get older, if it happened for me, I'm like, well, it's either now or never. And you want to, hopefully it's with a person that you want to be able to raise a child with. And I remember my grandmother would always say this to me. She was like, "Be careful who you lay down with because you can have a child with them." And I always had that in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Like, be careful who you lay down with because you could always have a child with
Hmm.
them. And I look at all my previous relationships that I've been in, and I'm like, nah, nope, nope, nah, nah.
Hmm.
So, but now
Thank
it's like,
God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm
Thank
like,
God.
now I'm in the position where, like, I couldn't imagine
Right.
anyone else, building this family with and having my child and continuing to grow in this relationship. And a lot of times when people say, "Oh, well, the baby's going to change things," of course the baby's going to change things.
Hmm.
But when you have the baby, not only do you have to focus on the baby, but you have to focus on yourself,
Hmm.
because now you have to even more work in a cohesive unit, because you're like, all right, well, well, I wouldn't do that. Or like, yeah, why are you doing
Mm-hmm.
that? So you really do have to find this balance where it's like, okay, how are we going to set up the rules? How are we going to discipline this child?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to matriculate through different steps of raising this child?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is very important when you're seeking a partner, because if you don't have these conversations, if you don't know, because a lot of times we go into things and we're like, oh well, this person does this, but they'll change,
Yeah.
they'll change, and it
It'll work.
won't.
It'll
Yeah,
work
yeah,
itself
yeah, it'll
out.
work itself out.
It'll work
But
itself
it
out. No, it
doesn't.
doesn't.
It doesn't
No, it
because
doesn't.
you have to be able to know what your non-negotiables are.
Yeah.
And I tell people that all the time. Know what your non-negotiables are,
Mm-hmm.
because if you anything on your non-negotiables list that you're dating a person and they do that thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's never going to work, because
Mm-mm.
you're never going to be able to change what you think is a non-negotiable,
Right.
and they're never going to be able to change holistically who they
Mm-hmm.
are as a
Mm-hmm.
person.
Yeah.
And to get back on your question, like I feel like it is very important for fathers to be in their children's lives, because I mean, two parent households, kids do better.
Yeah.
And there was a thing where it's like everyone's, every single parent's not going to be every single child that's raised by a single parent's not going to be LeBron James.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's
Oh, it could be
you,
me. Everybody
yeah,
feels like it's gonna
yeah,
be me. Like,
yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah,
like
yeah. So
I
like,
don't want those odds.
yeah, and the thing about it is, and kudos to a lot of single mothers, but if you ask any single parent out there, like, yo, would you give anything to have somebody here with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, none of them will be like, no, I can do this on my own. I can do this on my own. And there's plenty of women out there that raise children on their own, and those children have successful lives.
But
But
let me ask you this question, Mateen. Like
yeah,
with that, what you're saying right now. In society, I know you're on social media, you hear like it almost being like cool to like be a single mom and like grab the bag and be a single mom and I can do it by myself and this and the third. Even as even me growing up with a single mom, man, like honestly, I saw, even though she had to be quote unquote both parents, I saw how it took a toll on her. I'm not sure if it did the same thing for you because I lost my mom at 27, right?
hmm
So years ago. And I definitely understand where you're coming from, bro. It's a process.
hmm
Let me tell you something. It's a process. When I tell people my story and talk about it, it's bittersweet in the sense of it hurts, but it feels good because I was able to have her as long as I did, where some people never even had a mother like that
yeah,
and understand and maintain the qualities that I learned from that person. So then you hear it now, it being like glorified to be a single mother. And as a man, I wish I could have been the type of man in my mother's life at one point in time,
hmm
so that kind of to what you're saying, to break that cycle for your father. I mean, um your child's mom as well as your own daughter. If that
hmm
makes any sense. What do you think
yeah,
about that?
yeah, and I mean, and it is the club that nobody wants to be a part in, losing a parent, and especially losing your mom, um, as young as you did, and as young as she was. And my mom was 66, had a heart attack, died pretty quickly, and nothing you do can compare you to it. And I have, as a comedian, I've been able to work through a lot of the emotions in therapy, but also able to get to a place where I can talk about it and make jokes about her and
Right.
make jokes about everything on stage. And a lot of times people were like, "Oh, how can you do that?" I'm like, "Well, because no
You
matter what happens, she's not going to come back.
right.
So if this is what's helping me and like helping my story and letting people know what I feel,
And
and
continue her legacy,
yes, and that's
you
why,
know?
and that was
Mhm.
my biggest thing,
Mhm.
is like continuing my mom's legacy. And there were people when she died, man, and like reached out to me, was like, "Yo, I never met your mother, but I feel so bad for you because the way that you talked about her,
Mhm.
I knew how much you loved her."
Right.
And it was just a thing where it's like, yeah, and my dad, like I said, my dad was around, but
Relationship.
I had a different
Mhm.
relationship bond with my
Absolutely.
with my mother. And when you go about seeing, and I think, and we learned this too, like sometimes in college, when you talk about wearing the mask.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like a lot of times when you see these things glorifying and like, oh, these women are wearing the mask because they have to be able to be like, I'm okay.
Right. Okay.
And you have to be able to tell yourself that you're okay, because if you can't continue to tell yourself that you're okay, then you could lose it.
Right.
And I think a lot of times they just want to be able to have recognition for the job that they are doing,
right?
Because they are doing it by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a string of women who choose to be single mothers because they want to biologically they have to have a kid before a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
So I know at least 2 people that decided that they went to a sperm bank and got a kid, and they but they're still looking for a partner. I don't think they want to be able to do that forever, to raise the kid for themselves forever. But I mean, when you have anything like trying to pick up a table, right? It's easier to do it with 2 people.
Absolutely.
So especially as the years go on, there's going to be more and more stuff piled on top of that table. And so if you don't have 2 people to pick up that table, if you have one person on the table, the more stuff you pick on and the more stuff is going to fall off. It's going to be harder to pick it up and continue on until that child gets to a point where they're old enough to be able to help you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just think that it is kudos to anybody that's doing it by themselves, but there has to be a point where you're like, yo, I could do this by myself, or I could find another person to be able to do this with.
So let's go ahead. I mean, the question came up, but let's just talk about like, how do we make or promote and push fathers being cool again, man?
I mean, I think the narrative, I think with social media and everything, and then like for me, I was torn with like kids being on social media and like having your kid out there. But then I get to a point where like that's part of my life. My kid is part of my life, and I want people to be like, "Yo, this is the funnest thing that I've ever done. I'm the happiest now that I've ever been, and this is even after losing my mother, because like." To have, and it's still unbelievable. Like, I look at my daughter, I'm like, we made that,
right,
like,
right.
Really, that happened,
right?
And then the cells duplicated and turned, and then 9 months pregnant, and then you came out, and I saw it. I was right there, and then like she's growing like a weed, and I think like you have this child, and then one day someone's going to eat her lunch at work. It's like all these things that I think about. But yeah, I think for me, I want people to be like when I like that guy's having fun. He's having fun, and I feel like if I didn't have a kid, and I was talking to Erica about this, I was like, if I didn't have a kid, I always felt like if I never was a father, I'd be wasting all this good dad. I feel like I'm like I have all this, and I've always had this dad energy. And I've always worked with kids, and I've always had this energy. And it's like I feel like if I didn't have a kid, that I'd be wasting. Because I was all my sister has 3 kids. So I was always like the fun uncle. So to have my own daughter and still be that fun uncle is something that it makes me aging a lot easier.
Right.
Because as you get older and you start to realize like, oh, you're not going to be here forever. And I remember Chris Rock said this. He goes, people think that life is short, but life is the longest thing that we'll ever do. And so now with that mindset, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to whatever I can do to make sure that she's needs everything she has.
Right.
And my mom always told us like she made sure that we had everything that we needed and most of the things that we wanted.
Absolutely.
So now I want to make sure that she get everything she needed and like everything that she wants. If those grades is right, if she's acting right. So that's the position I am. And my mom made sure that she had life insurance, to make sure that we were taken care of.
Awesome, man.
And a lot of people in our community don't have that and don't talk about it.
No.
And it's something that is easy and inexpensive to make sure that your family, and I feel like other communities, that's how they set themselves up, because we don't have that generational wealth to
Yeah.
build upon. So I'm
Mhm.
like, for me, I made sure that, you know, I'm in a position that if anything ever happens to me, my family won't have to worry about anything.
Awesome, man.
So yeah, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man, for giving you that insight. I mean, I learned a lot in my, outside of us just, growing up as men together and hearing that side of your life. And I hope we can continue to do things like this, especially because we have similar situations too, to a certain degree. So it's being cool being a dad, and I like hearing that, and I think a lot of, like you said, a lot of our peers kind of feel the same way too. We just don't see enough of it.
Yeah.
We don't promote it enough in social media. And I'm also not a platform to bash women or bash people of color just in general. I mean, us to uplift, but also talk about the issues and the hard things that we need to talk about to address them and make sure that we are better people. So to the end, again, and make the community stronger again. I think it's been it's been getting down for a couple of years. And we saw it I think we saw it, or we saw a generation leaving. But it's our duty to continue that legacy on and make sure that fatherhood and fathers and men are looked at a certain way, so that women can also respect that that understanding that we have. Like, we're still here. We're not going anywhere.
Nope.
And so thank you so much. Again, Mateen Stewart, tell people where they can find you, brother.
Hey, you can find me at Mateen Stewart on all platforms. I am easy to find. I'm the only Mateen Stewart in the world, so it's not hard. Even if you put Mateen comedy, boom, 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 whatever. Yeah. Also, if you were getting married, I marry people. I have a business where I'll come and I'll perform your ceremony. You can find that at Married by Mateen on Instagram. Yeah, and I really appreciate you having me, man. And anytime you want me to come on and I'm free, I'll come and rap it with you, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. And again, you got to get over to the East Coast soon.
Yeah,
man.
I'll
want
make
to check
sure.
you out and
Dude,
support
I'm
you.
gonna come. I need to come to DC. I'm gonna look into that to make sure I get to DC. I'm gonna get a little more famous, so it'll be a lot easier. So,
yeah, man. So thanks so much, Mateen, for coming on. I am your host again, K Mo. Thank you for listening to the Brother to Brother Show. We'll see you back soon. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for coming onto the show. You can find us at tomorrowsmen.com, on Facebook at Tomorrow's Men, and on Instagram at Tomorrow's Men. Please click and subscribe to the button below. I'm your host, K Mo. Until we meet again, know we love you, work with us, be with us, and know we're coming from the heart.